We do vote yes on November 3rd. Make sure that you're here, and legalization is important to us. It's very important to us, not just because we want to smoke weed, but because we're tired of our brothers and sisters in New Jersey being locked up for utilizing a plant that grows out of the ground naturally. There's no reason to be locking people up, and it's at a terrible ratio of people. Black people get the worst of this, especially in New Jersey. Not only do they get attacked by the cops and targeted by the police because of their skin color, but they create useless laws for victimless crime so they can pull you over. They can search your car. They can take your constitutional rights away. They will turn you from an American into a prisoner in a single second because the private prison companies profit from your labor. And in order to keep slavery alive, the 13th Amendment included that clause that says except for prisons. So as long as they're a prisoner, they can be a slave. What did we see happen in the 1860s after they implemented the 13th Amendment? What we saw before the 13th Amendment, 90% whites in the prison system. What did we see after the 13th Amendment was passed? They said they solved slavery. Slavery's over. What happened? Prison system, 90% blacks. That is a problem. Our government creates these problems for our society. They create the division between us. It's not a white versus black. It's not old versus young. It's not Republican versus Democrat. It's poor versus rich. And until that we organize together as middle class, working class people, then the rich will always win. They keep us divided on issues that realistically are personal issues at the end of the day, but they turn it into widespread issues, national issues. They try to get the federal government to solve these issues for us, when in all actuality, if we established a great sense of community with each other, and we met with each other, and we talked with each other about the issues that affect us most, we could actually negotiate and compromise and realize that there are easier solutions than having the government solve our problems, because the government has historically failed in solving our problems. With the failed war on drugs, it has been 50 years, 100 years realistically, when they started reefer madness, when they started to get everybody scared of drugs to make sure that they could implement the second version of Jim Crow after the first one got knocked away. The first Jim Crow was black people got arrested for having natural black hairstyles, for being black, essentially. But when they started to rise up and they were pissed off, naturally, when they were pissed off at the government for taking their human rights away, their American rights away, they started to, you had someone like the Dixiecrats started to say, oh, well, you know what? We'll give you voting rights. We'll give you these rights. But then they had to implement Jim Crow round two, because that's what the war on drugs is. It's Jim Crow round two. They are targeting black people. And yeah, they give you that little bit of the ratio where white people get arrested. And so you have that argument, but they're like, oh, well, it's not just a black issue. It's not a race issue. It's like, no. But it stems from a racist issue. White people do get arrested, but look at the numbers and the ratios of black people getting arrested, getting their rights stripped away from them for their entire lives. They can't vote if they're a felon, and if they're growing a cannabis plant, now they're a felon. They can't utilize their rights. They can't do anything that free Americans should be doing. In 2020, we don't have free Americans because the rich people have taken over the police for 20 years. All these issues, they tie together. These are economic issues to keep us in poverty. The poverty keeps us from becoming rich and realistically taking over our nation and freeing our people, bringing liberty back to America like it's supposed to be. They messed up in the beginning really bad because America was filled with racists, and America is still filled with racists because we don't acknowledge that issue. You see a lot of Black Lives Matter protests. People are rising up. Now we're finally changing the culture. Include everybody. It's not just black people. It's not just white people. It's about creating a united nation. We are in this together as Americans. I encourage the people from my town to talk about our issues in Tuckerton, where I live, because our issues are exclusive to Tuckerton. Your issues might be exclusive to your town. Talk to your neighbors. Talk to your local politicians, because they're spending your property tax money on stuff that you don't realistically need. They're creating jobs for their friends and family, and they're spending all of your hard-earned money that you're going to work for on, I think the average American work week today is 55 hours a week. You're going to work for 55 hours a week just so someone can take your money and spend it on something that you don't need and give their friends a job that you don't need, that they're not qualified for, and they're getting paid something like 6 figures for. And we are all asleep, but that's not right. We're all here today because we are awake. And we are sick and tired of this corruption. And we are sick and tired of this rich versus poor poverty, this war on poverty that they keep perpetuating for the last 100, 200, 400 years for black people. White people have had it pretty good in some cases. Thank you, Leah. It's really amazing stuff, as usual. Thank you for coming out here and speaking today. I appreciate that very much. Our next speaker is the other powerhouse in the cannabis industry is Joanne Zito.